The Grand Council Hall was a massive room floating in the dark space above a neutral star. It was built by many different species over thousands of years. The walls were made of smooth white metal that glowed with soft blue light. Huge windows looked out into the deep black of the universe where ships moved like slow insects. In the center of the room was a large circular table where the leaders of the galaxy sat. Today, humans were new to this group. They had only joined the Galactic Federation a few years ago. Most of the other species were very old and very powerful. They looked at humans as if they were children who had just learned to walk. The Jack Porter stood near the human section of the table. He was a junior diplomat from Chicago. He wore a simple gray suit that felt too warm in the humid air of the station. He tried to stand tall, but he felt small compared to the giants around him. To his left sat Ambassador Grohl. Grohl was a member of the Krull Empire. He looked like a large insect with hard green armor and many clicking legs. He did not like humans. He thought they were weak and emotional. Grohl leaned forward and made a clicking sound with his mouth. Parts, it was a sound that meant laughter in his language. The Jack kept his face calm. He knew that getting angry would not help. Earth needed this trade agreement. The winter back home was going to be very hard. The crops were failing and the energy supplies were low. Without the fuel and food from the Federation, many people on Earth would suffer. Jack looked at the other delegates. There were tall beings made of rock. There were beings that floated in water tanks, and there were robots with glowing eyes. None of them looked at Jack. They whispered among themselves. Jack could hear the hum of their voices. They were talking about humans. They said humans were too fragile. They said humans should be kept on a short leash so they did not hurt themselves. Captain Linda Scott stood behind Jack. She was the head of human security. She wore a dark uniform with a badge on her chest. Her hand rested near the weapon on her hip. She did not look at the aliens. She watched the room. Her job was to keep Jack safe. She knew the aliens did not respect them. She had seen the way the guards looked at them. Their eyes were full of pity or disgust. Linda kept her expression hard. She would not let anyone hurt her diplomat. She took a slow breath. The air smelled like ozone and strange spices. Ambassador Grohl spoke up. His voice was scratchy and loud. He said that humans should not be allowed to vote on the new trade laws. He said humans did not understand the complexity of galactic economics. The other aliens nodded. Some of them made sounds of agreement. Jack felt a burn in his chest. It was anger, but he pushed it down. He stood up. Slowly, he placed his hands on the table. The table was cold under his palms. He looked at Grohl. Jack spoke in a clear voice. He said that humans were willing to work hard. He said that humans wanted to be partners, not servants. The Grohl clicked his legs. Again, he waved a hand in the air. He said that partners must be equal. He said humans were not equal. The room went quiet. Everyone waited to see what Jack would do. Jack wanted to shout. He wanted to tell them about the history of Earth. He wanted to tell them about how humans survived wars and plagues and still kept going, but he knew words would not change their minds. They needed proof. They snorts needed something big. Jack sat back down. He looked at Linda. Linda gave a small nod. She was ready for anything. The main event of the day was about to start. The High Princess of the Ethelgard was arriving. She was the most powerful person in the room. Everyone feared her and respected her. If she sided with Groll, humans would have no chance. If she sided with humans, things might change. Jack wiped his sweaty palms on his pants. He felt the weight of his whole species on his shoulders. The heavy doors at the end of the hall began to open. A low hum filled the room. The lights dimmed slightly. Everyone turned to look. The air felt heavier. The moment of truth was here. The heavy door slid open with a smooth sound. There was no noise of gears or motors. It was like magic. The room fell into a deep silence. Every head turned toward the entrance. The guards at the door stood straighter. They held their long spears with both hands. First group of warriors walked in. They wore armor made of silver metal that shined in the blue light. They moved in perfect steps. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. They were the elite guard of the Ethelred. Behind them walked the princess. Her name was Viera. She was tall and graceful. Her skin was pale like moonlight. Her eyes glowed with a soft purple light. She wore a long robe made of fabric that seemed to move like water. Viera was known across the galaxy. She was known for her voice. She could speak with words and with her mind. Her psychic abilities were very strong. She could make people feel fear or peace with a thought. She usually led the negotiations. She was sharp and clever. No one dared to interrupt her. She walked down the long aisle between the tables. The sound of her feet on the floor was the only noise. Jack watched her come closer. He felt a strange feeling in his stomach. It was not fear. It was something else. It felt like the air was changing. Linda shifted her weight. She was ready to move if the princess attacked, but Viera did not look at the guards. She did not look at Groll. She looked straight ahead. As she walked, she scanned the room. Her glowing eyes passed over the rock beings. They passed over the water tanks. They passed over the robots. Aliens bowed their heads as she passed. It was a sign of respect. Groll lowered his upper body. He wanted to show he was loyal to her. He expected her to stop at the main dais. That was where she always sat a day. It was a raised platform in the center of the room. Jack looked down at his table. He did not want to draw attention. He just wanted to survive the meeting. He hoped Viera would be fair. He heard whispers from the aliens nearby. They said she was in a good mood. They said she might agree to the trade laws. Then Viera stopped. She was not at the dais. She was still in the aisle. She was facing the human section. Jack looked up. His eyes met hers. Purple light in her eyes seemed to get brighter. Jack froze. He could not move. It felt like time had stopped. Viera stopped walking. Her feet stayed planted on the floor. Her hands stopped moving. She stared at Jack. She did not blink. The silence in the room grew heavier. It became uncomfortable. The guards behind Viera tensed up. They put their hands on their weapons. They thought something was wrong. They thought the human had done something to her. Groll looked confused. He clicked his legs nervously. He looked at Viera and then at Jack. He did not understand what was happening. Viera was known for speaking first. She always greeted the council, but her mouth was closed. She made no sound. She did not send any thoughts into their minds. The psychic pressure that usually came from her was gone. It was just quiet. Jack shifted in his seat. He did not know what to do. He wondered if he had spilled something on his suit. He wondered if he looked rude. He felt sweat on his forehead. He wanted to look away, but he could not. Her gaze was too strong. It felt like she was looking into his soul. Linda stepped forward. Slightly, she was worried. She thought the princess might be planning an attack, but Viera did not move to attack. She just stared. The silence stretched out for 10 seconds, then 20. The aliens in the room began to whisper. They were scared. They had never seen the princess silent. Something was very wrong, or something was very right. Jack waited. He held his breath. The whole galaxy seemed to wait with him. Ambassador Growl could not take the silence anymore. He stood up quickly. His chair made a loud scraping sound on the floor. He pointed a long green finger at Jack. He demanded to know why the princess had stopped. His voice was loud and angry. He said that the human must have used some kind of trick. He said humans had forbidden technology. He claimed Jack was using a device to block the princess's mind. The room erupted into noise. The other aliens started talking. All at once, some agreed with Growl. Some were confused. The guards around Viera moved closer to her. They formed a circle around her to protect her. Their weapons were ready. Captain Linda Scott did not wait. She stepped in front of Jack. She stood between the diplomat and the angry aliens. Her hand was on her weapon, but she did not draw it. She spoke in a loud and clear voice. She told Growl to stop making accusations. She said that humans did not use tricks. She said that disrespecting a diplomat was against the council rules. Linda's voice was steady. She did not show fear. She looked at the Cathar ambassador with hard eyes. Growl clicked his legs. Again, he said that humans were liars. He said that security should search Jack. Immediately, the chaos grew louder. The rock beings slammed their fists on the table. The water beings bubbled in their tanks. No one was listening to reason. Through all the noise, Princess Viera did not speak. She did not use her telepathy to calm the room. She simply watched Jack. Then she moved. She walked past the main council table. She walked past the high seat where she was supposed to sit. She walked directly toward the human section. The guards followed her closely. The room went quiet again. Everyone watched her move. She stopped right in front of Jack. She was very close. Jack could see the details in her glowing eyes. They were not angry. They were full of shock. They were full of something like hope. Jack stood up slowly. He was taller than her, but he felt small. He did not know what to say. He asked her if she was okay. His voice sounded quiet in the big room, but Viera did not answer his question. She looked at her guards. She made a hand signal. The guards lowered their weapons. They stepped back. Then Viera did something that no one expected. She bent her knees. She lowered herself to the floor. She knelt before Jack Porter. A gasp went through the room. It was a sound of pure shock. The Ethelred princess never knelt. She was royalty. She was powerful. Kneeling was for servants. Kneeling was for those who owed a debt. Jack took a step back. He was confused. He told her to stand up. He said she did not need to do that. Viera shook her head. She stayed on one knee. She looked up at him. Her face was serious. She finally opened her mouth. She did not speak a long sentence. She did not explain herself yet. She said only one word. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the room. She said, "Found." The word hung in the air. Found. Growl looked like he was going to fall over. His mouth parts hung open. Other delegates stopped breathing. Linda looked at Jack. she did not understand. Either Jack looked down at the princess. He asked her what she meant. He asked her what she had found. Viera did not answer yet. She stayed kneeling. She waited. The silence was different. Now it was not uncomfortable. It was heavy with meaning. The aliens looked at each other. They whispered about the word. What had she found? Was it an object? Was it a place? Or was it a person? Jack realized she was looking at him. He felt a chill run down his spine. He thought about his family. He thought about his history. He wondered if there was something about him that he did not know. Viera finally stood up. She motioned for Jack to come with her. She said they needed to talk in private. She did not look at Growl. She did not look at the council. She only looked at Jack. Jack looked at Linda. Linda nodded. She would follow. Jack took a deep breath. He walked with the princess. The council was left in stunned silence. The truth was waiting in the private room. Viera led Jack and Linda to a small chamber near the back of the station. It was a private meeting room. The walls were made of dark glass. There was a table in the center with 3 chairs. A man named Sam Cole was already there. He was another security officer for the humans. He stood up when they entered. He looked worried. He asked if everything was okay. Linda told him to stand down. She said the princess was not a threat. Viera motioned for them to sit. She sat at the head of the table. She looked at Jack. Her glowing eyes were soft now. She told them that what she was about to say was a secret. She said it was a secret kept for thousands of years. Jack nodded. He said they were listening. Viera began to speak. She told them about the history of the galaxy. She said that before the Federation existed, there was a great war. The enemy was not a species. It was a force of nature. It was called the Void Eaters. They were creatures of dark energy that consumed stars and planets. Nothing could stop them. The Ethelred were almost destroyed. Their cities were burned. Their people were dying. They were on the brink of extinction. Viera's voice shook a little. She said that help came from somewhere unexpected. It came from Earth. Jack blinked. He thought she was making a mistake. He said humans did not have space travel back then. Viera shook her head. She said humans did have travel. They had ancient warp gates. They came through the stars to fight. She said the human warriors were fierce. They did not use psychic powers. They used courage. They fought the Void Eaters with fire and steel. They sealed the threat away in a dark dimension, but it cost them everything. The humans who fought did not return. The gates were closed to protect Earth. The history was erased. The galaxy forgot the sacrifice. The Ethelguard swore an oath. They promised to stay silent until a human returned. They promised to wait for the genetic marker. Viera looked at Jack. She said that Jack carried the marker. It was in his blood. It was a sign of the commanders who led the ancient army. Jack felt dizzy. He looked at Linda. Linda looked at Sam. They did not know what to say. It sounded like a story. But Viera believed it. Viera said that the marker was rare. Only 1 in a million humans had it. She said that was why she went silent. She felt the marker. When she saw him, her psychic mind recognized the signature. It was like hearing a song from her childhood. She said that humans were not newcomers. They were the legendary guardians. They were the saviors of the galaxy. The HFY element was real. Humans had always been strong. They just forgot. The truth left the humans stunned. Jack put his head in His hands, he thought about the way Grawl treated them, he thought about the insults. Now he knew why they were wrong. Humanity was not weak, humanity was sleeping. Jack asked if there was proof. Viera pulled a small device from her robe. She scanned Jack's hand. Device beeped with a green light. It matched the ancient records. The proof was real. Sam Cole let out a long breath. He said that this changed everything. Linda stood up. She walked to the window. She looked out at the stars. She felt proud. She always knew humans were tough. Now the galaxy knew it too. Viera said that they had to tell the council. She said that the humans deserved respect. She said that the trade agreement was not a gift. It was a debt being paid. Jack stood up. He felt different. He stood taller. He did not feel like a junior diplomat anymore. He felt like a representative of heroes. He asked Viera if the other species would believe them. Viera smiled. It was a rare smile. She said that the evidence was clear. She said that fear would make them listen. The Void Eaters were gone, but the memory of the war remained. The humans were the only ones who won. Jack nodded. He was ready to go back. He was ready to tell them the truth. The secret was out. The galaxy would never be the same. The council was reconvened. An hour later, the atmosphere in the hall had changed. The aliens were quiet. They sat in their seats and waited. Ambassador Grawl looked nervous. He clicked his legs less than before. He watched the door. When the doors opened, Princess Viera walked in first. Jack Porter walked beside her. He did not walk behind her. He walked as an equal. Linda Scott and Sam Cole followed them. They walked with their heads high. Viera did not go to her dais. She stood next to Jack. She faced the council. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the lights. Viera spoke to the assembly. Her voice was strong and clear. She announced that humanity was to be granted a new status. She said they were Prime Protectors. The murmur went through the room. Prime Protector was a high rank. It was reserved for the oldest and strongest species. Grawl stood up. He tried to protest. He said humans were not ready. He said it was a mistake. Viera turned to him. She did not shout. She just looked at him. Her eyes glowed brighter. Grawl sat down. Immediately, he was silent. Viera reminded the council of the ancient war. She told them about the Void Eaters. She told them about the human sacrifice. She said that without humans, the galaxy would have ended long ago. She said that every species in the room owed their lives to Earth. The aliens looked at each other. Some looked ashamed. Some looked afraid. They remembered the old stories. They realized the truth. Doc Jack stepped forward. He spoke to the council. He said that humans did not want war. He said they wanted peace, but they demanded respect. He said the trade agreement would be signed as partners. No one objected. No one laughed. Grawl kept his head down. He did not click his legs. The vote was taken. It was unanimous. Humans were accepted as Prime Protectors. The gallery began to clap. It was a slow clap at first, then it grew louder. The rock beings slammed their fists on the table in approval. The water beings bubbled happily. Even the robots beeped in agreement. Captain Linda Scott allowed a small smile. She looked at Jack. She was proud of him. She was proud of all humans. Doc Jack looked out the large viewport. The stars shined bright in the dark space. He no longer felt small. He knew that Earth was safe. It was not safe because of charity. It was safe because the Galaxy finally remembered. They remembered who humans really were. They were the shield against the dark. They were the ones who stood when others fell. Jack thought about the winter back home. Now he knew help was coming, not as a handout but as an honor. Viera stood beside him. She looked at the stars too. She said that the oath was fulfilled. She said the Ethel Guard were finally at peace. Jack nodded. He knew there was work to do. There were still problems to solve, but they would solve them together. The story ended with Jack looking at the reflection in the glass. He saw himself. He saw a diplomat. He saw a human. He saw a guardian. The journey was just beginning. The galaxy was wide and full of mysteries, but humans were no longer afraid. They had their history back. They had their honor back. The alien princess had fallen silent, but now the humans could speak, and the whole universe was listening. The truth had left everyone stunned, but now it left them united. Jack turned away from the window. He walked back to the table. He picked up the pen. He signed the agreement. The ink was black. The paper was white. The deal was done. Humanity had arrived.